Hi all, it's Vanessa Levin. This is my channel about the mental health field and related topics. So today is a related topic to the mental health field. Okay, so I was watching Flores, I think, her channel, the Flores Files, about about Mayim Bialik, and how Mayim Bialik has a Blossom or Amy Farrah Fowler. So celebrity, but she also has her PhD in I think microbiology or molecular biology from UCLA. She got out of Hollywood, got her education, and then went back into Hollywood. Yeah. Sometimes there's pictures of her that I'm like, that's not me. I don't have those glasses. Um, Really hard sometimes to tell the difference at just the right angles. Okay, so what do you call it? So Flores was kind of like, well, like, why is Maya Bialik like, even like talking with someone who is, oh gosh, what is a flat Earth denier, like, or flat earther, or like, there's some sort of science denial, and my comment on it was like, we have to stop believing that like just because someone has an education that they are smart, or that like they think of things research wise and that's the only thing that they do. you know it's just not. So we'll talk about therapists. Therapists lose their license for taking advantage of people. There was a story out of Connecticut that I was like, oh my fucking god, I would never do that. Like, it is so bizarre to me, like the fucking boundary violations that happened. I'm just like, no. So there was a therapist. He got close to a family. That's fucking weird. He was at the house, I guess, with the key, with their kid, um, waiting for like contractors to come to the house. First, you can't pay me enough to do that. Like that is, this is, I don't know. Like, that is such, it blows my mind. Like, okay, you thought that this, you spent 30 years as a therapist and you think that this is okay. And he like touched their son, like that, and that got him like the license removed. Like, he lost his license, which I'm like, fucking yeah. But like, also, what the actual fuck? Like, how how I, and then like I just saw one that was like, a psychiatrist was like, had had assaulted one of their clients, and I'm like, yeah, you lose your license over that. No, no, no question, you know. But it's like, what the fuck happens to people? And like, there's a bunch of other stories that I don't want to get into, but of other people who I've heard through the rumor mill of like them marrying or sleeping with clients. Um, I've had conversations with colleagues that I've just been like, I don't understand how you can have any sort of like belief about that. Like, I refuse to interact with a a colleague because during Me Too, like, I have guy friends who have their own assault stories, and that's obviously something that like is important. I've had clients have their assault stories of all genders, you know. Like, I don't think that there's any way to prop one victim up over another, victim or survivor up over another. My colleague, she works with people who have addictions. Trauma happens to a lot of people who have addictions. And I've worked with men who have addictions. Like, there's assaults that happen. One guy, very open, which I appreciated so much, about his experiences, he was just like, you got to talk about it. Like, I thought that I might be gay. I wasn't. It was just this guy kept touching me when I was younger, and you know, like he was really open about it. I appreciate him. Oh my God, so much. But she really said during the Me Too movement that like we have to amplify women's voices over any other gender. I don't agree with that. I don't think that you should work with addiction if you think that way, because like those beliefs are going to get in the way of you providing proper care. My opinion. For other people, you know, like I don't have that belief where I'm like, yeah, you can probably just like leave it to the side, you know, but I'm like, you cannot work with addiction, have that opinion, and have that opinion, you know, like that's gonna come out in some way. You know, like I'm more spiritual. I like don't mind talking about spiritual things. I don't mind doing spiritual things. I don't mind encouraging spiritual journeys. You know, but if my clients are religious, I'm not like, oh, how dare you? Like, I just sometimes forget some of the traditions in Jewish culture, but like I try to keep up on like so many different religions and what their philosophy is, like what their, you know, major holidays, dates are, you know, to like make sure that I respect my clients and everything. But I'm sure there's people who don't like that about me, that, you know, don't like I know that I had a friend, we were friends for probably like, I don't even know, a couple months or so, like we're still acquaintances, but you know, I said, oh, I did this thing like with my friend, because I just needed some like clarity. I needed some like just peace in my life. And so, you know, my friend and I got together, we did a ritual, and like, you know, that friend saw that I did a ritual and was like, I don't agree with that. And I'm like, like this is like, you're mad at me for doing something for my own peace. I don't agree with that, like bad treatment because I did something for my own peace. You know, like there was a person who was like, I felt like was still like influencing like things that were going on in my life, and I was like, I don't want this connection anymore. So like I did a ritual to end the connection. This is not a problem for me. Like I'm totally cool with this, you know, but like, you know, and I know I've talked about like, so part of my migraine disorder like is seeing auras all the time, and sometimes I see them during sessions. I have never talked to my clients about any of these things. They're just information for me. I'll be like, oh, hit that pretty well because I saw a little, you know, like a little spark or like a little dark hole or something in my vision. Since I've gotten acupuncture to help with my migraines, I don't see those as often, and like I'm fine, you know, but like I took them as like spiritual signals. And I know that people would probably be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But also, some of my clients have been like, please tell me if those things ever come up. And I'm like, okay, you know, I don't always want to talk about like the spiritual things that are happening in the room, because it's not always comfortable to be like, I don't know, I have information, it's just information for me, I don't know anything else, you know, because like, I know people will be like, no, but what does that mean? But what does that mean? But what does that mean? You said it. What does it mean? And it's like, it is what I said that it is, and I can't describe it anymore. And I don't want to. So I don't talk about it. You know, and I'm fine. You know, like privately, these are things that are part of my life. With my clients, like, okay, let's talk about how you went to church. What was the sermon about? Tell me. Oh, I'm so excited. You know, all of those things, which like perfectly fine. Like it's all good. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, we're all good. But whatchamacallit? So yeah. So yeah, there's that. And like, you know, I know that there's like other things, ghosts, alien abductions, you know, that I'm like psychics, mediums, like I think that those that there are people who've had those experiences. You know, is it tough to say whether or not it was just like a dream or something else, you know, like a nothingness of, you know, Barnum statements or something? No, it's not easy, you know, but it's also like, it's something I believe in, you know, like some people don't like that. I also don't do evidence-based. I like evidence-based with like CBT is an 8-week program where you are taught skills, and once you learn those skills, you are done with therapy. That's it. You can do those skills through a workbook, you can do them with a therapist. It doesn't matter, because all it really matters is that you do the skills that you are learning. That's it. That's evidence-based. If my clients need more time, if they need, you know, me to go over things, if they need me to, like, you know, do a little bit different, or be just like someone who they talk to during the week because that's a part of their wellness, I'm fine with that. You know, does that have some research value? Yes. The more that you like your therapist, the more that you talk to your therapist, the better that the outcome is. But is that necessarily evidence-based? No. No, it's not. So like, yeah, you know, you can do things. So outside of that, I have known 2 to 3 people who are there, like who went through school to be therapists. 2 of them are not therapists currently. The third one possibly isn't either. I think she might have retired. But she knew she was in a decline. That's the other part of that. But like, who just, they took the tests, they went through school, they had the advantages, you know, of being able to do internships without being paid, and to live during those times, and to do all the things that you need to do to get your license. One of the people has had a report against them, and they're trying to get their license back. As far as I know, I haven't talked to them in like 2 years for reasons that I'll get into, but like, yeah. There was that therapist that stalked me, and I don't know if that person ever got their license. I know that like occasionally they like would reach out to my previous practice to find out where I was. It's ridiculous. But you know, like, it's okay to be evidence-based, it's okay to not be evidence-based. And like, I've also been in conservative therapist groups, and it was kind of like, I left because it was getting, like, during COVID, it was getting more and more toward like the Alex Jones conspiracies, and I couldn't anymore. Oof. So yes, I had that therapist that stalked me. He had interviewed at the private practice that I started with, and the private group practice that I started with, and he just, I did a whole video about him before where like, he was so weird, and I was like, yeah, I don't agree with him as being a part of like the group practice. I think we saved ourselves with that decision. He gave off a weird vibe, and then like, he kept in contact with me, but he'd be like, why don't you take me out for dinner? And I'm like, no. He's like, I'm homeless, by the way. Like, I don't need to, I don't want anything, like, this isn't, you're not someone who I'm responsible for. I don't feel sorry. You know, like, I don't feel the need to take you out to make sure you eat. That's, honey, we have programs in Connecticut, please, you know. And like, he would say weird things like, I could have a tiger if I wanted, and just to see me be like, you should not have a tiger. Yep, I'm gonna name him Earl, you know. And it's like, this is not like, can you imagine this person as a therapist? This is so fucking weird, you know. And I had to learn through him being like, oh, what color would your tiger be, instead of being like, please don't get a tiger, that's not something that you should do. The second person, haven't talked to her in a while. she, the last times I've talked to her, was very delusional. And I don't agree with anything she was doing. I don't think she was honest with me. I don't even know if she was honest with herself. I think she was in the middle of a manic episode. Again, can't diagnose, but like it just seemed kind of like everything was kind of going that way. So when I wasn't making a lot of money, I went to work, tried to find another job, and I did both jobs. I was a therapist and worked wherever, and saved as much money as I could, did the limited amount of things that I could do, right? Which I'm like, I think that's the way you have to do it, So we're fine, right? She did not do that. She would not have money. She would cry in parking lots to get people to pick her up and take her places, because like one time I was out with a friend, I was nowhere near her, and she was like, give me money for Uber. And I was like, I don't have, or she was like, send me an Uber. And I was like, I don't have the Uber app. I typically don't use I don't even know if I have an Uber account, and I wasn't going to tell her anything else. So like, she's like, I need to get to this train station. You don't need to take a train right now. You need to be at work. Like, you need to be at your job. She had lost her license. It's possible her ex-husband complained. It's possible that someone who she was seeing complained and said she was on drugs. I don't know if she's on drugs. She might have been. But there was some like mediation company, I've never heard of it, but like she had to pay that company back and have an evaluation or something so that she could get her license back. I don't know this process. I did look it up. It seemed legit. She had a complaint against her. It seemed valid. So she could still get her license back. Okay? So, her ex-husband has her kid. I don't know if he's a good parent. I don't know if I've ever met him. It's a lot. So this day with the train, she cries so much, someone nicely offers her a ride to the train station. She gets on the train. So she says, I'm a domestic violence victim. I'm leaving my abuser. I need a free ride. None of that was other than being a domestic violence survivor, possibly. Again, one of those. I didn't see it. I don't know what happened. She's saying she asked her ex-husband oh, what's this about? And he just jumped across a table or chair, sofa or something and choked her. And I'm like, now that I know that you lie, what was the real story of that? Had you asked him all day? What happened? Something's not making sense there. And yes, abusive people can be abusive at any point. That is something that abusive people would do. You simply ask a question and they have an act of violence towards you. Totally get it. She's a liar. So I don't know. What happened? So she's crying on the train. I don't have a train ticket. I can't get anywhere. And then she doesn't have money. She doesn't have money for anything. She's working a minimum wage job, doing something, right? So she's on a train. She's at a car dealership talking with them about how she wants to get a new car. So again, not escaping her abusive part. She is living in a place where that train station is, free of charge from one of her family members, uncle, cousin, whoever, free of charge. She has a roommate. Yeah, it's all very weird. So she gets on, she's crying and crying and crying and crying, and like, I know people who work on the train, they're telling me like, you know, hey, she's dropping your name. I don't have anything to do with the trains. And you know, like, she's like, I need a voucher, and like, that's just not how it works. It's such a weird thing. Like, I don't know. Okay, like, I don't know. So, and then the next week she gets on the train again, and they like, the conductors remembered her, and they're like, oh, you're so and so's friend, right? Like, and she's like, you told them about me. And I was like, I didn't say anything. They remembered you, you know, crying on the train the way that you were. Like, of course they're gonna remember that, you know, but like, I didn't say anything. It's so weird, you know. So, she doesn't tell me all of this. I hear it from the people who work on the train. So I only hear she got off the train. She had money somewhere, don't know where, and she was looking at cars, and the car dealership might have even like tried to hire her. That job never appeared. Don't know what happened. The car never appeared. Don't know what happened. And she was like, I love riding trains. I'm so glad that you're not practicing therapy right now. I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. This is a person who went through all of that. She went through education. She got her, like, you know, her master's. She paid for the license. She practiced for a few years. Like, oh my God. And it just seemed like, so, like, more and more and more and more stuff would happen. Like, she called me one day and she's like, I'm like 2 hours away from where I live. Aren't you proud of me? I took some time away from everything. And I'm like, the only way I'd be proud of you is if you went to work. Like, that's all that I would ever require you to do. Go to the library, walk to the library, and go to work. That's all that you need to do without any money. You know, like, you need to, like, pay your bills. You need to lower all of your finances and, like, and your spending until you are out of your debt. That's it. You know, that would make me proud. Don't know why she thought that I would want her to be 2 hours. I don't even know how she got there. She take an Uber? How'd she get that money? She take a train? How'd she get that money? Or how'd she manipulate everyone? Like, what the hell? And, like, she would be like, oh, I was homeless and I needed a place to stay, so I would just go to the emergency room at midnight and they'd let me stay there. Like, the emergency room is not your hotel. Like, that is remarkable. Like, to just skip over any, like, place and then be like, I get to be comfortable. Like, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this. Like, where'd you even come up with that? I would never do that. Like, it's just so, like, I can't imagine. Again, she's educated, you know. The last story, briefly, I've gone to the gym for a long time now. So this is when I was, like, first practicing and first going to the gym. So I'm like finally can afford a gym membership at that point. Yay. So I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the gym frequently. Actually, I think my friend might have been paying for my membership. It was a whole weird thing that like we split our membership and then like fees, and then like he ended up paying for that. I ended up paying for that. It was a very weird thing. So I go and I walk into the not laundry room, what is that, locker room. I walk into the locker room, all of the lockers are open, and I'm like, the fuck is happening? And this woman who I guess knew who I was from when I was networking and like making connections to other therapists, and I might have worked in the same building, I can't remember. So she's like working in the same building and stuff, and like all of the lockers are open. She can't find her keys, and she was just like, I don't remember where I put them. And I'm looking at her like, I do not understand this. Like, I don't understand what's going on. She's like, I gotta retire soon, you know. And she's like having a conversation with me, just casual, like, you know, but like also she has been like panicking for not finding her keys. it's such a weird, and I'm like, I don't understand opening all of them. Like, if I think that I put it in one, and of course I would remember the number, but like if I put it in one and it's not there, I'm checking a couple of other ones and then going to the front desk and being like, are my keys up here? Like, it wouldn't dawn on me to open all of them. Like, like I might go back with, the person and be like, or I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go back and check. Let me check all of them. Like, I wouldn't keep them all open. It was such a weird experience. And I was like relatively new in the field, and I was like, this is just bizarre. Like, I don't feel comfortable at all in this situation. And it was one of those situations too where it was like, I'm kind of expecting you to act a little bit different than the way you're acting now. Like, oh no. So yeah, it was so weird. But yeah, all these people got their education, they went through their education, they paid for their license, they paid for their malpractice insurance, they did their CEUs, they, had all of these things that were technically to their advantage. They have the masters, right? Like, please don't put us on a pedestal. I'm open to being wrong. I've been wrong before. I talk all day. Like, I'm so, like, I could be wrong. I'm okay with that. But, like, we got to stop thinking that education means anything. Like, some like of these people out here practicing have very little oversight in what they actually learned. And like, I'm not trying to put anyone down. Like, there's just programs out there that are frauds. Their educations, they kind of fit into what the requirement is, or at least they say they do, and then they're not. Like, and also some of us students were lied to, and it's so interesting because I've had people just be like, yeah, they lied to you because, like, once you get into like the system of like learning and like higher education, they want you to stay in higher education. If they were honest with you, you wouldn't still be like taking other classes from other places. They want you to stay a student. It benefits them, and it's like, well, yeah, and also, like, it's just lies. Like, I graduated, and it was way before we had a license for art therapy in Connecticut, and the licensed creative arts therapist in New York doesn't have any what is that thing called, diagnosis. You can't diagnose if you have that. Also, insurances might not cover it. So what's the benefit, like, long term for the person? Like, that's a struggle, you understand? Like, not being able to be on, like, insurances is a struggle. I mean, some people choose not to, it's fine. But, like, you want to make money, you want to make consistent money. Sometimes, for some people, that means being on insurance panels. And not even having the option means that you are a, like, private pay person. There's people who don't want that. There's a lot of people who don't want that because they pay for insurance, and that insurance is $500 a month. They're paying you $600, $800, $1,000, $2,000. Hopefully you get results. Oof. Anyway, so yeah, it's okay. Be critical. It's fine. All right. I hope that was helpful for you, or at least entertaining. I will talk with you later. All right. Have a good one.